The girl Cardia was transformed into a monster by her father. Her body was filled with deadly poison. As long as anyone touched her, they would be corroded by the poison. Cardia didn't want to hurt anyone, so she had been sleeping in an ancient castle. But one night, a group of uninvited guests broke into the castle, waking Cardia from her slumber. Their goal was the jewel on Cardia's chest. When the soldiers saw Cardia's beautiful appearance, one soldier developed wicked thoughts. He walked over and reached his hand towards Cardia's face, but as soon as his hand touched Cardia's face, the next moment his right hand rotted away instantly. Then, these soldiers forcibly captured Cardia, but on their way back to the palace, they were stopped by a mysterious man. The man's name was Lupin, and he claimed to be a phantom thief magician. He planned to rescue Cardia from their hands. When the soldiers saw this, they immediately fired guns at him. Lupin calmly pressed the remote in his hand, and soon a purple smoke emerged from the ground. The smoke contained a sedative. Before long, all the soldiers fell unconscious. Then, Lupin approached Cardia, and like a gentleman, extended his hand, inviting Cardia to leave with him. But Cardia instinctively shrank away, fearing that the poison on her body would harm Lupin. However, Lupin was not afraid. He knew that Cardia's clothes and gloves could block the poison on her body. Before Cardia could finish speaking, Lupin swiftly picked her up and left the place with style. Under the effect of the hypnotic smoke, Cardia soon fell unconscious. When she woke up, she found herself sitting in a car. The red-haired man next to her was named Impey, and he was Lupin's companion. They had come together to rescue Cardia. Later, the two took Cardia to their hideout. Cardia remembered nothing except her name. She has lost all memories about herself since 2 years ago. The only exception is her father. Her father told her to never fall in love and always stay at the mansion until the day he returns. Lupin brought a file and told Cardia that her father, Beckford, was a genius scientist. Many years ago, he created a substance that could output infinite energy, and hid this substance inside his daughter Cardia's body. This substance was called horologium, also known as the eternal beating heart. The reason the royal army captured Cardia was to obtain horologium. Although Lupin knew of horologium's existence, he didn't know exactly what it was. Upon hearing this, Cardia started unbuttoning her top. She then revealed the gem on her chest. Cardia said this was the thing her father left her, but she didn't understand why everyone wanted it, nor did she know why her body was filled with poison. Lupin admitted he didn't know the exact reason either, but he did know the real mastermind behind everything targeting Cardia was an organization called Dusk. They planned to use the power of horologium inside Cardia to incite a large-scale rebellion in the country, and her father Beckford was involved as well. Lupin's reason for rescuing Cardia was to stop the plans of the Dusk organization, so he hoped Cardia would stay here for a while. However, Cardia wanted to return to the castle because she recalled a memory about her father. Beckford had told her that she was born a monster and that she would bring misfortune to everyone around her. So, Cardia could only live forever in loneliness. Just then, the sound of a door opening interrupted Cardia. It was a small dog. The cute appearance of the dog immediately caught Cardia's attention. She followed the dog outside to the villa, but soon got lost in the woods. At that moment, a pack of wild wolves discovered Cardia. They attacked her, treating her as prey. But in the end, the wild wolves all died from the poison on Cardia's body. Seeing the bodies of the wolves slowly decaying, Cardia once again realized she was a terrifying monster. At this moment, Lupin arrived and took the dejected Cardia back to the villa to help Cardia regain her spirits. Lupin promised that he would help her uncover all the truths. Cardia decided to stay because Lupin's words made her feel a warmth she had never experienced before. At that moment, it seemed like something inside her chest was beating rapidly. To alleviate Cardia's poison, Lupin took her to find a man named Victor, who had once been the royal court's chief alchemist, but for some unknown reason, he was now a fugitive. Victor carefully examined Cardia's body. He believed the poison in her body was related to the horologium implanted inside her. Then, Victor revealed an astonishing truth. Cardia did not have a heart at all. Horologium's role inside her body was to replace the heart. If horologium were removed, Cardia would die immediately. Seeing Cardia's emotional distress, Lupin immediately promised to help her uncover all the truths. So, they all set off for the capital to search for clues. This was the ruler of the country, Queen Victoria, and the boy speaking with her was none other than the leader of the Dusk organization, Finus. Because the soldiers sent by Queen Victoria failed to capture Cardia, Finus had to personally send assassins to bring her back. The next day, Lupin and his group arrived at their destination. They decided to split up to gather information. Lupin took Cardia to a casino, which was a stronghold for the underworld, where all sorts of intelligence gathered. Suddenly, Lupin sensed something was wrong. It felt as though someone was watching them. He immediately grabbed Cardia and left the casino, but as they ran into an alley, they were attacked by several masked men. Lupin quickly used his cards to create an illusion and escape, but they didn't get far before a man holding 2 guns suddenly appeared in front of them. The man immediately opened fire, but his target wasn't Lupin or Cardia, it was the masked men behind them. The man then demanded that Lupin hand over Cardia. When Lupin refused, the man prepared to shoot. At the critical moment, Victor arrived. Using smoke grenades as cover, Lupin managed to escape with Cardia. They quickly got into Impey's car and prepared to leave the area, but before they could go far, the man from earlier blocked their path. He shot and exploded their tire, causing the car to flip over onto the ground. The man was named Helsing. His goal was to use Cardia as bait to lure out the leader of the Dusk organization, Finus. Helsing seemed to harbor a deep hatred for Finus. Upon hearing his words, Victor immediately proposed a collaboration. Since they shared the same goal, working together would benefit them both, making it easier to achieve their respective objectives. After listening to Victor's analysis, Helsing agreed with his point of view and accepted the cooperation. After all, he had heard of this genius alchemist. However, what they didn't know was that the leader of the Dusk organization, Finus, was actually Cardia's brother. Cardia didn't understand what love was, because she didn't have a real heart. What replaced her heart was a cold, mechanical one. But Lupin believed that even though Cardia's heart was fake, it could still feel love. When this fake heart touched the warmth of love from someone else, it would beat in response. But the innocent Cardia didn't understand what Lupin was saying. She just wanted to experience that feeling. So, she asked Lupin to help her. Lupin, like a true gentleman, took her hand and swore on his name that he would fulfill her wish. In order to uncover the mystery surrounding Cardia, everyone unanimously decided to capture the leader of the Dusk organization. Since Finus was the one most determined to capture Cardia, he likely knew everything about her. He intended to use the horologium inside Cardia to incite a rebellion. Lupin had gathered information that 2 weeks later, Finus would be traveling to the capital by train for a military inspection, so they immediately planned to hijack the VIP carriage he would be in. 2 weeks later, since Cardia found it difficult to move in a skirt, Victor made her a new outfit. It was made from the same material as her original skirt, and it also had the ability to block the poison from her body. After finalizing the plan, everyone decided to split up to carry out their tasks. Helsing and Victor headed to the train's engine room to take control of the train's operations. Meanwhile, Lupin and Cardia disguised themselves as staff members, boarding the train from the rear and creating chaos, drawing as many soldiers as possible toward them. They then planned to cut off the connection to the VIP carriage. At the same time, Impey had already changed the track's direction, forcing the VIP carriage, where Finus was, onto a bridge. Their plan seemed flawless, but it seemed that Finus was prepared for this. Helsing, who had planned to meet up with Lupin, was ambushed by soldiers. Meanwhile, Lupin encountered an investigator named Herlock, who had come to assist the police in capturing Lupin, the infamous thief. At that moment, the train was about to reach the newly rerouted tracks. With time running out, Lupin chose to stay behind and delay Herlock, while instructing Cardia to disconnect the train carriages. However, when Cardia climbed to the top of the train, she was confronted by Dusk Organization's assassins. Fortunately, Helsing arrived just in time, eliminating the assassins. Cardia then successfully reached the junction between the two carriages and detonated the connector, redirecting the train onto their intended path. Meanwhile, Lupin, seeing that Cardia had successfully completed the task, immediately jumped off the train and escaped with Impey's help. However, their plan ultimately failed. It turned out the enemy had already known their intentions, and they even destroyed the entire bridge. It was revealed that the intelligence Lupin had gathered was actually a trap deliberately set by Finus. As soon as Cardia and Helsing arrived at the VIP carriage, Cardia was captured by the ambushers lying in wait. Finus's true goal was to meet Cardia, for they were siblings, both inheriting a certain will from their father. Finus's words left Cardia confused and lost. He then claimed he would reveal all of Cardia's secrets to her, and asked her to come with him. Just then, Lupin blasted open the compartment of the train they were in, and shouted Cardia's name. Cardia instantly snapped out of her trance, leaping toward Lupin. Fiennes tried to stop her, but it was too late. Helsing also took the opportunity to escape. In the end, the unmanned train plunged into the canyon. However, Fiennes did not die, and the things he said caused an inexplicable pain in Cardia's heart. That day, Lupin found the research institute that Cardia's father had once used through the manuscript he left behind. They were shocked by what they discovered here. The hall was filled with containers, and inside these containers were nothing but artificial humans. Upon seeing this, Cardia's mind fell into chaos. Since all the related documents in the institute had been taken, they couldn't figure out the exact situation here. However, as an alchemist, Victor noticed that these artificial humans had no hearts. Moreover, their bodies bore a striking resemblance to Cardia. Victor, based on everything that had happened to Cardia, deduced that she was an artificial human. Though this truth was too cruel, everyone felt they should still tell her. But the next day, they discovered that Cardia had left without a word. At this moment, Cardia had already boarded a train back home. She wanted to figure out whether she was human or a monster. She didn't want to involve anyone else anymore. So, she chose to return alone to the place where she had lived before. Once home, she immediately rummaged through everything in her room for a long time, but she found nothing useful. Then, Cardia went into the toy house from her childhood. She saw a music box on the ground. She opened the music box. As the music played, the table suddenly moved on its own. It revealed a keyhole in the wall. Cardia took off her glove and used the poison in her body to melt the lock. Inside the hidden compartment, she found a letter left by her father. Just as Cardia was about to open it and read, she heard the sound of a window shattering. At that moment, a group of villagers surrounded the castle. While throwing stones, they yelled that Cardia was a monster. Seeing these violent villagers, Cardia suddenly remembered what had happened 2 years ago. Back then, she was chased by the villagers, who thought she was a monster. While escaping, she met a woman named Elaine. Elaine hid the injured Cardia in her home. After that, Cardia spent some happy days with Elaine and her daughter, until one night, the villagers discovered that Elaine had been sheltering Cardia. They quickly surrounded her house. Under the priest's manipulation, the villagers had lost their minds. They blamed the drought and the diseases in the village on Cardia. They said she was the demon who brought disaster to the village. When the priest saw that Elaine refused to hand over Cardia, he incited the villagers to act by force. During the chaos, one of the villagers pulled off Cardia's glove. Then, this villager grabbed her hand, but the next moment, the villager's whole body began to melt. Frightened, the villagers immediately locked Elaine and Cardia in a cave. Due to the lack of oxygen in the cave, Elaine gradually had difficulty breathing. Cardia tried to use the poison in her body to melt the rocks and escape, but it was already too late. In the end, Elaine died in front of her due to lack of oxygen. The next day, Elaine's daughter, with the villagers' help, opened the cave. When she saw her mother's body, she cried bitterly. At that moment, she also believed that Cardia was a monster, that it was her who caused her mother's death. The little girl's words deeply hurt Cardia. This event had a heavy impact on her. Since then, she had been in a deep sleep in the old castle. She never dared to come out again. She feared that someone might die because of her again. But just then, the villagers interrupted Cardia's memories. The priest once again manipulated the villagers. He blamed the recent disasters in the village on Cardia. He even mentioned that Elaine had died because of her 2 years ago. Elaine's daughter was watching Cardia from the crowd. At this moment, Cardia couldn't bear to face the little girl. The priest told the villagers that if they killed Cardia, they would receive the blessings of the gods, and all the disasters would naturally be resolved. At that moment, Lupin arrived just in time to save Cardia. Lupin angrily rebuked the priest's words and the villagers' foolishness. Lupin scolded the villagers, saying that they never thought about how to solve their problems, but instead blamed everything on an innocent girl. He felt that they were the real monsters. After rescuing Cardia from the villagers, Lupin told her the truth that she was an artificial human. Cardia felt uneasy upon learning that she was an artificial human, but Lupin firmly told her that, whether she was human or a monster, to him, she was just an ordinary girl.